I've opened the data set that I'm going to use, and I'm in a Porto, so this should look mostly the same. Just as a reminder, if you're going to use a Porto, you need to upload your file by clicking on this little cloud with an up arrow. And then when you're done, you would have to download it. So you'll most likely be doing this on the lab computers, but if you want to be able to access this at home, that would be your method. There are videos on how to use a Porto. So here you can see there's this layout. Your TA is going to go through this with you or has already. And you can see that there's start date, end date, status, IP address, progress. There's a lot of information you don't actually need. And so the first thing that I want you to do is address this status. So this status, it says 0. That's not super helpful as is, right? If you press the value labels button, it shows you that this is an IP address. You can right click and sort descending. And you can tell that it stayed the same. So I could also right click and go to descriptive statistics. But what we see here is that it's all the same, that it's all IP address. So let me minimize this. Imagine that instead yours had survey preview. Or maybe you had a survey test, or maybe spam. What I want you to do is write down how many of those you had. So you would say I had 1 survey preview, 1 survey test, 1 spam, and then you're going to highlight them. So if I click and hold and drag and release my mouse, then I have highlighted these 3, and then I would right click and clear, and that will delete them. So don't do that unless that's what it said. I created ones just as an example. This is just the data that I'm using as an example. So that's the first step in cleaning up your data. There's some other steps that I want you to take here before we move on to the next step. So start date and end date, you don't really need that. So you can right click. So I highlighted them the same way I did the rows. I'm going to right click and I'm going to delete those. Those, if you think you might need those, you could go ahead and keep them, and that's fine. Status, now that I've determined that I have all real responses and I don't have any survey previews, I can right click and I can delete that. And then I can also right click, clear my IP address. I'm going to leave progress for the time being. I'm going to leave duration. Some of you, it might be helpful to know how long it took people to complete the survey. You could also get an average at the end and find out what your average duration was. This finished equals true is the same as this progress button or column. So progress refers to percent complete, whereas the finished is a true false. So I'm going to delete finished. I never use that. We're not going to use that for this purpose. And then I don't need the recorded date, but again, you could keep it if you want to. I don't need the response ID, so I'm going to right click and clear. I'm going to highlight all of these because they're blank: recipient last name, recipient first name, recipient email, external reference, right click and clear. And then same thing for location, latitude, longitude, distribution channel, and language. I'm going to right click and cut. Next, I need to look at my Q1. So for me, Q1 is informed consent here. So you're invited to complete a survey. That would be the different options. And again, I'm in this value labels, so I can see that it says agree. So if you see numbers, you just need to click this value labels. So what I need to do here is I need to make sure that I delete any that did not consent. So I'm going to right click and I'm going to sort descending. And if there was another response in there other than I agree, so if there was I do not agree, you would want to write down how many people did not agree and you would delete them. So we're not going to delete anybody else. We're only going to delete people who did not consent, and they shouldn't have any responses if they didn't consent. And then we also deleted people or fake responses. So we deleted the survey responses. So that is this next step in the cleaning and analysis process.